Hello and welcome to another episode of Just Another Fanboy, the live stream coming at you live today. I'm your host, Steven, and today I got my guest today is he's somebody who creates things with his mind. He sits down, he gets up in the morning and he sits down at his keyboard and he says, "You know what? I'm going to create something today." And he starts typing away and he just creates characters that live and breathe, and they have thoughts and they have problems and they get stuff done. That's right. I'm talking about Shawn Pryor. Boom, there he is. Shawn Pryor, writer, podcaster, creator. What other hats do you wear?
Man, all types of hats. Like you said, writer, author, podcaster, creator. Let's see, what else? Man,
super nice guy.
I have my moments.
I say it all the time.
I have my moments. Coffee drinker.
Yes.
that's a new one.
Had that coffee.
You know, hey, 2020 has changed so much for me. Like, if you'd have told me, Steven, back in 2019, hey, Shawn, you are going to love coffee so much that when a pandemic hits, I'd be like, pandemic? What are you talking about? They're like, no, just listen to me. When the pandemic hits, you are going to be drinking coffee 4 times a week. And I'm like, no, I drink coffee like maybe once every 3 months. And I'm like, no, you're going to be drinking it 4 times a week. Not only that, Shawn, you know what else is going to happen? You are actually going to learn how to love your hair because you've had a bald fade for like almost 30 something years. Man, it's just easy upkeep. No, social mores got you. So that's why, and in America got you. So that's why you keep your hair short, but you're going to fall in love with your hair during the pandemic because you're going to grow an afro because you can't go to the barber shop. It's going to change everything. And it did. So like, I'm drinking like a caramel mocha right now. And like, I got hair on my head and just like it's been a busy year amidst all this chaos. But Steven, thank you for having me on the show. Like I'm excited. Let's do the thing.
It's a pleasure, man. I've been looking forward to this. When I decided to start doing this live stream each week, I started thinking about who do I want to get on the show, and your name was right up at the top of the list.
Oh, thank you.
Now I have a certain number of questions here, okay. And I've found that when I start interviewing people, I have certain questions that I have mapped out, but frankly, you ask one question and then that leads to all kinds of fun stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen today.
All right.
But we'll figure it out. But I have actually a quick question that's not on my list. I'm sitting there looking behind you and there is a pair of yellow legs hanging off that shelf behind you.
Oh yeah. This joint right here. Like this was the Justice League Action Firestorm.
Nice.
And like Justice League Action was like kind of hard to like actually watch when it first came on Cartoon Network. I actually done the whole Cartoon Network run. It was very difficult to try to find it. So like, I found it like about a couple of years later. I was like, man, these were a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. And so when the toys came out, like, because I'll collect stuff every now and then, like I'm nowhere near the collector that I used to be because 1, it's impossible to do. 2, it's become more difficult to do. And then 3, sometimes you just can't find stuff. And so one day last year, I was at a Five Below, and I don't know if y'all have any Five Below store. Okay, y'all got
we do, yep.
Okay, so I was at a Five Below, and one day they just had like a bunch of Justice League Action, like 10-inch, 12-inch figures. They're like $5, and I was like, man, these are really cool. And that's like, oh, Firestorm, and I've always been a big Firestorm fan. Like every single version. Version I've had some type of enjoyment with. But when I saw that one, I was like, man, this is really cool. So I went ahead and grabbed it. And they also had like a Booster Gold. And I was like, oh, cool. I was like, let me grab this booster. Let me grab this Beetle. Let me grab this Blue Beetle. And let me grab the Superman in an outfit that he's never worn before. Which leads to like a whole other path of like with toys when like they give certain superheroes like 55,000 different outfits that you never see. But I love that because it's a form of chaos that I just adore because it drives people mad. I'm like Snowsuit Batman. I'm like, you need Snowsuit Batman. Okay. You need Stealth Wing Batman. You need like Ground Attack Batman. You know what I mean? Like you need all the Batmans. And so like, I love that stuff.
And it makes sense with Batman. You see snowsuit Batman, and you're like, I never saw that in the comics, but he would wear that in the comics.
Right.
Batman fighting in the snow. It's got to have a snowsuit.
Gotta have snowsuit. Yeah, snowsuit Batman. Like,
so, let's talk about superheroes real quick. That's not on my list.
Okay,
but let's talk about superheroes. Are you much of a superhero reader when it comes to comics nowadays? Do you read a lot of superhero comics?
I'll be straight up. Like, I used to read them heavily. And like since like I started like writing more like the last 4 or 5 years, my reading of superhero comics has dipped. And it's, you know, nothing personal. One, it's financial. Two, it's a thing of also like I don't want to spend money on stuff like I'm not going to read for like 4 or 5 years. So like a lot of times I don't buy things new anymore. You know, like if I turn my camera, you would see like a bookshelf full of books. And I'd say like 80% of those books I haven't even read yet. Okay. But like, I'm like, yeah, I'll get this later. And I always find the books later for cheap. So I have a tendency to like to read. I'm always behind on superhero stuff. Especially like I said, the last 4 or 5 years. I find that like I have been more intently watching, you know, Super Sentai, you know, Tokusatsu. I've had more interest in watching those superhero type stories. I relate more to them. I relate more to their storytelling, their story beats, and it's no offense to like the superhero stuff that's out there. Because I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff out there. Now I don't throw shade towards it. I just have more of an inclination to really get into like deep into Super Sentai because like it's something that I've always enjoyed. But now if you talk to Shawn from like the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, oh man, it was comic books all day, every day. Every Wednesday I'm at the shop. Every Wednesday, like I'm trying to get what's hot and what's new. You know, and so, but like to this day, like there's still like older books that still resonate with me. The Rhodey run, the James Rhodes run on Iron Man, when it was written by the late Denny O'Neil, with pencils by Luke McDonnell and inks sometimes by Ken and Garvey, I believe. I forget who did the colors. And sometimes David Michelini sometimes would write stories too. Yep. Like that run, that's like my Iron Man run, period.
Yeah, that's I'm in the middle of that run right now on Marvel Unlimited. I started around 1982, and I'm around the end of 83 right now. So yeah, that's right in the middle of his stuff.
Oh yeah, and like it's just interesting because like I don't think they knew how heavy that run would be. Because when you're a kid and you're reading it, you're just like, man, you know, Rhodey's kind of cool as Iron Man. He's learning all these ropes, and like sometimes he doesn't know how to restrain himself because he's frustrated. But I'm like, no, now that I'm older, it's like, okay, you're a black man who is now in the role of one of the most popular superheroes. You know, granted, back then he wasn't that popular compared to now, but still he was a major superhero who was originally a white dude. Everybody that knows Iron Man knows it's Tony, but like they know that's not Tony, but they don't know who is actually behind the armor. So you're a black man in a white dude's outfit trying to pass as a superhero while dealing with social issues, while dealing with being black. And like, it's just so many complex layers. Yeah. And then everybody's like, man, why is like Rhodey tripping? I'm like, because he's stressed the hell out. That's why.
Yeah.
You know, he stressed the hell out, you know, so much so Tony's like, man, I got to stop drinking. Let me go help Rhodey. And even by the time that happens, Rhodey's like, man, you better leave me alone. You better leave me alone. And like, they start scrapping. Like it gets so wild because even Tony like goes to get the original Iron Man armor, which has like one of the coolest covers. It's like Iron Man versus Iron Man. And I'm like, man, ain't no way Tony gonna beat Rhodey with this busted old Iron Man armor. No, it ain't gonna happen. But I love that story. You know, I love that story. I do feel that after that, and then when Tony came back in the Silver Centurion armor, that they really didn't know what to do with Rhodey. You know, but they gave Rhodey a flat top.
Yes, they did.
They gave him a flat top, gave him a Uzi, and was just like, yo, man, just help out Tony when you can. and we'll give you Tony's old armor. Oh yeah, by the way, it's gonna catch on fire with you in it. Still salty about that, by the way. So, but then you had the whole War Machine thing. Rhodey's story as a whole has just been very. I think it was handled best. It was handled best with O'Neill and Michelini, Donald, and Ken and Garvey. Christopher Priest had done some really cool stuff with Rhodey and the crew. But besides that, it's always been very up and down, very, very mixed results.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the announcement of the new Armor Wars show coming to Disney Plus, starring Don Cheadle as War Machine?
I'm happy. I'm happy for Don.
I love Don Cheadle. I love it.
I'm happy for Don. Like, War Machine was one of my favorite Marvel characters from when I used to read Iron Man heavily. That was one of my favorite superheroes. So to see the character of Rhodey finally get his own thing is really cool. Because I was not a fan of Iron Man 3. I like this, I understand the story it was trying to tell. I didn't like the execution. And then it becomes a buddy cop comedy towards the end, which I liked. But once again, Rhodey didn't get to do anything but be a joke. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so that always kind of made me salty. But I'm glad that he finally gets to really do something. And so Armor Wars sounds really cool. It does have my interest. So yeah, I'll peep it. I'll peep it for sure.
So all right, let me get to this list here. We're gonna talk about some writing stuff. I have 5 questions though. Whenever I talk to somebody who is a creative, that I always ask them. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Okay, so when I was 5, there was 2 things I wanted to be. I wanted to either pilot one of the Shogun Warriors, which I think in America is called Force 5 or something like that. I wanted to pilot either Raideen or Guy King, or I wanted to be an X-Wing fighter pilot. That was age of 5. All right, that was the age of 5. Then my mother told me at the age of 6, you do know that's not real. And I'm like, yeah, kind of. Yeah, but just
come on.
Let me dream. Let me dream. But that's what I wanted to be when I was 5. When I was around 6 or 7, that's when I started to really get a penchant for wanting to write without really knowing how. Because my parents always wanted me to read, and they didn't have to force me to do it. I had a bunch of Disney books when I was a kid. When back in the day, when you go to the grocery store, and remember you could buy the encyclopedias one at a time.
Yep.
There was the same company that had these Disney storybooks, and they would do the same thing where they would say, okay, we're going to give you 3 right now, and some bookends, and every other month we'll send you another book.
That sounds real familiar.
And so I think my dad still has all those books. So I would read those every single day, and I would look in the mail every single day. And my parents were like, "Listen, they're not coming for another month." And I'm like, "Well, how long is that?" Go look at the calendar and just count it down. So I'm like, "Okay, fine." So I used to read those heavily. I used to read a lot of Charlie Brown, a lot of Peanuts, Garfield, and then all of that got me really excited about writing. So I was like, okay, so I just grabbed pen, pencil, just started writing, try to write Charlie Brown stories and Garfield stories and whatnot. But it really wasn't until I think I was around 27. So actually, I was in my 30s. I was actually in my 30s. When I was in my 30s, I was like, okay, I really want to write, but what do I want to do? And so I started with comics because I've always enjoyed them. I enjoyed the medium. So I said, okay, yeah, let's do this. So 2007, I was like, okay, we're going to start writing comics. And I learned the hard way and did stuff independently. And then in 2010, joined Action Lab Entertainment, and I was on and off with them for a decade. But in the midst of learning all of that, I started to realize about 3 years ago that I can do more than just comics. And that's where really things started to change for me, because like me and the comics game, we haven't always seen eye to eye, and we always haven't had a good relationship. And so, and I'm sure other people could say the same, but my whole thing was like in 2017, I got my first ever work for hire to write prose for a company called Capstone. They do like a lot of kids books. They do like kids prose and sports prose and children's books and graphic novels. They do all types of stuff, tons of different divisions. And so I got a work for hire gig to write a sports novel. I was like 5,000 words. And they were like, well, it pays this much. And when they told me the amount, I was like, wow. I was like, I never got paid that much for doing comics. So I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, I can do this. I can do this. Come on, I can do this. And so like I wrote my first like prose novel, and I was like, why haven't I been doing this? Like I could have been doing this a decade ago. What am I doing? And it changed everything for me.
Yeah.
And then I wrote my first children's book for Capstone, because they have like a line called like Kids Sports Stories, and like, you know, 750 words, you know, it's 750 words, but you have to learn how to write for children's books. Like every single thing I've written for them, and I've written a good amount of books for them over like the last 3 years. They're different formats. So you have to learn different writing styles. And like, you know, so you're dealing with different editors, and they're all very helpful and very kind. And like, it's been fantastic. And it really changed my outlook on writing as a whole. Because like, it was at that moment I realized it's like, okay, I could dedicate all my time to like the comic book business and trying to break in per se. But if like the returns aren't there, okay, we can go somewhere else, you know, like, and that's the whole thing with Kickstarter. Like, you know, that's the whole thing with Kickstarter too. Like, that's why like I made like such a strong push this year via Kickstarter, because it enabled me to also get out projects that I wanted to see out there, regardless if any market wanted it or not. Because I knew that there was an audience for it.
Yeah.
So, you know, and now I'm at that stage where now I have a literary agent, and now I can say, okay, this project is for me, and this project is for me too, but I feel that this could do well in XYZ. My agent's like, let me take a look at it. Oh, this looks really cool. Okay, let's see if we can sell this. So like, that's where I'm at now, you know. And like, and the thing is that I still maintain a 9-to-5, you know, because like, you know, hey, like that's the whole thing. People think that when you get an agent, or if you got a book on the shelves, that like, you know, you making bank. And I'm just like, no, bro, no, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Like, trust me, everybody will know the day I eventually quit my job. Everyone will know, but it's not today.
Yeah, that's like a big myth. People just assume that once you start publishing, man, the money is just, you know, you're making Stephen King money or something. And that's, I think a lot of authors out there for a long time, they had the day job. They had to still pay the bills. They weren't getting it from those books. Okay. But yeah.
It's a grind. Like, it's a complete grind. When when before my agent signed me, Kelly had asked me, she said, how do you see this going? You know, how do you see this actually working out? I said, well, I said the first like 2 or 3 years, I expect to still have a job, you know, because like, I know the first book deal isn't going to be big. You know, I'm not going to get a gang of money. You know, I'm not, you know, just as long as the royalties are good, you know, and then I'm like, okay, well, I may not see a lot of money from that still anyway. So it's like the first couple of years is about basically building a name within publishing. So, and also building trust within publishers. So I was like, that's where we start. I said, you know, now you talk to me 5-10 years down the line. Yeah, it'd be great if I don't have to have a 9-to-5 anymore. But I said, you know what? I said, I'm good with working a 9-to-5 because this is what I've been doing.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I'm used to it. Like, and plus I like having healthcare.
Oh yeah. That's a big thing.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the thing. You know, I've spent a lot of time listening to a lot of podcasts about self-publishing and about writing and about breaking into the business and all that. And, you know, the first thing a lot of folks will tell you is if you're getting into writing to be rich and famous, you've picked the wrong profession, because it's probably not going to happen. But for a lot of people, the act of writing, it's almost like you don't have a choice. There's just something inside you and you got to get it out. And if you don't get it out, it's going to be up here and you're going to be thinking about it all the time and it's going to drive you nuts. So you have to put it somewhere, and whether or not it goes into a drawer or you put it out there for people to see, you're going to be doing it anyway. So if you can make a living off of it, that's the dream, right?
Yes.
So,
yes. Oh yeah, definitely. Like that's the whole thing. And like the thing is that it's not there yet.
Yep.
It's just not, but things are getting better, but it's still not where it needs to be for me to say, okay, well, I can cut back here and then I can go ahead and do more here. It's like, no, you still work full time. You have bills to pay. There's a mortgage on this house. And so guess what? Guess who's going to work today? You are. Okay. So that's how it goes. That is how it goes.
Well, you're definitely on the path though.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And the nice thing about writing is you do have to, obviously you are a very, very busy man. And when you juggle that 9 to 5 at the same time, it's you don't have a lot of time to yourself, or the time to yourself is spent writing. Even if you're not in front of a keyboard, you probably have a little notebook that you're jotting down notes and whatnot in. But the great thing about writing is you can pretty much do it anywhere nowadays. You don't have to have one of those great big old clunky typewriters that you got to try to carry with you somewhere.
Oh yeah. No, you can do it pretty much anywhere. Like sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I am a stickler. Sometimes like there is a certain environment that I like to have and like to be in before I start typing. And then there's other times just like, man, you're just being lazy. Just get your butt in there and go write.
I get that. I get that.
Over with. Like, like Notes app on my iPhone has been incredible because like, I'm like, oh, okay, I got an idea real quick. And I'm just be like, and I'll put in a Notes app and it's in the cloud forever until I accidentally delete it and I scream. But like those things like are a big help. Like I've known authors, like over the last couple of years, because like some of them may have just had kids, like they literally have written a novel in their Notes app.
Yeah.
And first off, I'm like, how did you do that? Because like I literally would be like squinting and trying to type and squint and like because I don't have my glasses on right now. And so, but like I would literally have my glasses on and at the same time doing this because like I'm at the age where I'm this close to getting bifocals and like I know it's coming and so I accept it, but at the same time I'm very angry about it. but bifocals have come a long way. They're no longer this like like the line, like they look like regular glasses now. So that's
what these are. These are my first.
See, okay, see, I got a witness then. I got a witness, like, because, back when I was a kid, I would see like all them bifocals that have like the lines. And so now your glasses like are split in half. So it's like the Death Star where you see that line in the middle of the Death Star. And it's just like, man, I don't want those. Yeah. But now, no, like it's changed. Like the technology has changed. So I'm just like, well, probably next year I'm going to have to get bifocals. So let me prepare.
They do take a little getting used to, but yeah, that's what these are.
Cool.
You got to look at them. You got to look at them the right way. And if you're not, sometimes I'll be like, why is everything blurry all of us? Did I put my glasses on? Oh no, they're on. I'm just looking at them wrong. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about process real quick because we all have our own way of doing things. And me, for example, I got this stupid thing that holds me back that I don't even like to start something unless I have come up with a title first. I don't even like typing word one unless I got a title. Okay. And I also have to, I use Scrivener to do all my writing in. Okay. I can't write by hand. I know people who have written entire novels on notebook paper, and I can't do that because my hand cramps up after like 30 seconds. And mine have to look, it's got to look nice.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me about your process. How do you start? Okay, well, let me ask you this first. Mm-hmm. Are you a pantser? Do you know that term? Do you write by the seat? Stephen King is a pantser, writes by the seat of their pants. They do not have any kind of outline going in. They have an idea and they just start writing.
Oh, no.
Or do you outline? Do you get it all structured and formatted first and then start writing? Do you know how the book is going to end before you officially really start?
No, I don't. Now, with work for hire work, it's different. Work for hire work, normally I have to give a full outline, and then like both parties are happy with like, okay, this is how the story's gonna go. All right, bet, let's go. um, but like a lot of times, like I love outlines. I love outlining, and the one thing I've had to teach myself over like the last 5 years is that just because I outline it, it doesn't mean that the story is set in stone, because
Right.
things are always susceptible, it's susceptible to change. I'm like, yo, you can change things if you feel the story needs to go another way. And it used to be like, no, this is the outline and we have to stick with it. I'm like, no, you don't, bro. You don't have to. Like, if you feel that the story is going to go somewhere else, if you take it somewhere else and it's going to be better, go ahead and take it somewhere else. And like these other notes that you have, just move them into something else if you need be, or don't use them at all. It's okay. You don't have to use every single idea that you have. I am an outline person. Like, I normally don't worry about titles. Sometimes titles are the most difficult thing for me. Like every now and then, like I will have a title that comes first, which is rare. And I'm just like, oh, that sounds like a really dope title. Do we have a story that goes with this? I don't know. Let's just write down this title before we lose it, because we can never think of a title. So, but normally I'm about outlining, and then I'll outline. And then after I outline, I'm like, okay, where's our main character? We've talked about everything the main character is going to do and go through, but what are they like? What are they like? What are their likes? What are their dislikes? Do they like sleeping in every day? Do they like playing video games? Do they like, jogging and going outside? Do they like, being on FaceTime with their friends and family? Like all these little intricacies, because like these little intricacies can not only round out a character, but also help you move the story along too. And that's the whole thing. Like, a lot of people don't understand that like everyday life stuff can really change the outlook of your story as a whole, and it just incorporates like all these worlds and like makes it so much better. Not to the point to where it's like I did this and I did this and I did this and I did that. It just makes it flow. Because like, say for instance, like if the main character really enjoyed FaceTiming, well, what if in this story, like the event like the character witnessed this event, but it was through FaceTime? And then that was the whole thing. Well, how would I have set up this event? Oh, well, they use FaceTime, right? Okay, well, we can say they saw this event via FaceTime, and now we've opened up our story. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like little things can make big things happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, but like I'm all about outlining. It's rare if I do a story out of the seat of my pants. I've only done that, I say, maybe like in the last 5 years, maybe about 4 or 5 times. One of those times was for a anthology for Luke Foster. He did a Western anthology that I'm a part of. I think it's called it's called 8 Gunshots. I believe it's available on Amazon right now. And so it's like a Western. And so I was like, man, I've always wanted to write a Western. But it had to be short. So I literally wrote that off the seat of my pants. Yeah. And like, and I remember when I was done, like I was sweating. I mean, I was sweating because I was just like, I don't normally do this. This makes sense. Then I read it and I was like, I want a little change here. Okay, I like this. Okay, let's send it to somebody to edit it, and hopefully the verb tense is good. Go. And but it's rare. It's really, really rare, because like I can be very anal retentive when it comes to writing. And I don't mean like sticking to form and grammar and syntax, I have to have an outline in place and understand the outline can be subject to change. If I don't have an outline, oh man, like if it's a big story, I'm putting myself in a world of hurt, because literally I'm just at the keyboard saying, okay, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
Go ahead. What you gonna do? Nope, can't go to YouTube, bro. Nope, we're not watching wrestling on YouTube. Nope, come on. Give me something. So yeah.
Yeah, I've done it both ways, and I have found that there are advantages to both. Mm-hmm. My very first I've written 2 books and then a collection of 4 novellas. My first book was completely pantsed, and the problem with that was that it took me 4 years to do. Mm-hmm. And the thing about it though is I got about 60% into it, and it was at that point, because I had no idea where I was going, but it all at that point just kind of clicked. and I said, holy crap, I know exactly what I want to do now. I know how I'm going to end this. Now I had to go back and rewrite a bunch of the stuff that I had written, but there's just this feeling when you're just doing it by the seat of your pants, when it all comes together and you're just like, oh, it's like this, I don't know, just this wonderful feeling. But the last thing I wrote, and I tell you, I have not written anything in 2020. I have just not, I can't make myself, I've been trying, I just can't do it. There's just my head's not in it. But the last thing I wrote, it was a short story. I put it in this collection, and I actually sat down, and it's like 10 to 15 chapters. And I went and I didn't outline it, but I did a paragraph for each chapter. So this is what's going to happen in this chapter. This is what's going to happen in this chapter. And so I got all the chapters summarized. So I knew exactly how I was going to start. I knew how I was going to end it. And then when I actually sat down and wrote, it's like, holy crap, why haven't I been doing this the whole time? This is easy. Yes. I know where I'm going. There's a roadmap in front of me. If I want to swerve a little, if I want to take this exit, I'll get back on the highway later, but it's just, there are advantages to both. And that once I had it mapped out, I had it written in no time, but that first one that I just pantsed it took me 4 years because I kept hitting stumbling blocks. And since I didn't have anything mapped out, I'd walk away for a while. Oh yeah. And then I just wake up one morning. Oh, he's got to do this. And then
oh yeah.
So, yeah. So do you have a schedule when you're actually writing? Do you schedule it out? Do you say to every day at this time for this amount of time I'm going to write, or do you have like a word count goal for each day when you're writing?
I don't really have a schedule per se. Like it's more of a thing of like, say for instance, like if I know that a work for hire gig is due on X day. And like, depending on how much work I have on top of the stuff I'm trying to create and the stuff I'm doing work for hire. Let's say that like I have a book that's due 12/16, like the 16th of December. I hope, depending on the amount of words, I hope that I have at least started it at least a week before it's due. Let's say that book was a little stuck in my throat. Excuse me. Some got stuck in my throat. Ooh. Anyway. Let's say 10,000 words. And so if I had 10,000 words, I'm hoping I gave myself at least a week to do it. But knowing me, I didn't. So I was like, okay, I got 3 days. So when I get home from work, we're going to write 3 chapters a day for the first 2 days. And then the last day, write 4 chapters. Because we already have the outline. The outline's good. The outline's done. We did that outline like a while ago. So we do three chapters a day for 2 days. On the third day, we do the 4 chapters, and then we do the supplemental material the day we turn it in. So like that's how it would do. That's how it would be like sometimes. A lot of other times though, when I actually give myself the grace and like the leeway and the time, it would be a situation of, okay, here is a 5,000 word novella. Okay, so here's our outline. Okay, so what we'll do is like, there's some days I'll come home from work. I'm like, you know what? Sean's not writing today. It's not happening. It's just not. For me, it's just more of a thing of, okay, I know I've got 7 days in the week. If I'm writing in at least 3 or 4 of them, I did okay. That's how it normally goes for me. And then there's sometimes I take weeks off, because, well, first off, 2020 has been hell. So it's more of a thing of like, I have to allow myself time off from writing. And even during that time off, I'm still like outlining stuff. So I'm like, Sean, you're still writing. Are you really giving yourself a break? But like, there is no set schedule per se. Like a lot of times I'll just tell my fiance, I'm like, listen, after I cook dinner, I'm going to be downstairs for like 3 or 4 hours and I'm going to write as much as possible. And then tomorrow I won't be writing. We'll watch some TV. We'll watch Charlie Brown Christmas and maybe like, the Grinch and, and whatever. And we'll just chill out. But like, I hope to get to that place where I do just schedule and say, this is the block. This is the block. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But how I write right now, it does work for me. And sometimes like I'm at my best when I'm under pressure. Even though I'm like, Sean, when you're under pressure, your high blood pressure goes up. So, you get high blood pressure. So I'm like, hey, let's bring this down and let's space this out to make it easy for us. So yeah, no set schedule. As long as I get 3 or 4 days into writing a week, I'm not really concerned about the word count per se. As long as I do get some writing in, that's what matters most to me.
Okay. And the work for hire, you said the outline was done a long time ago. That's how you get is that how you get the gig? Is the outline? You give them the outline and you say, this is, I mean, are you getting your work for hire through your agent?
Well, in the beginning, in the beginning, when I started doing work for hire work, I was getting that stuff myself. And it was because a lot of it was because in 2017, my name was in a database. And so an editor at Capstone saw my name and was just like, well, we're looking to hire more, writers of color and, more Black people for our books. And we see that you've written a lot of comics, but do you ever think that you could write prose? And I was like, yeah, because one, I knew they were going to pay, they're going to actually write a check. So I was like, yeah, let me take a shot. And so they're like, well, we're doing this baseball book. Can you give us a baseball story? So what would happen is this, I would say, okay, I would give them an idea for a baseball story. And I would say, okay, it's about this kid. He plays wiffle ball with his friends all the time. He's really, really good at it. And after playing with his friends, they're walking down the street and they see a sign talking about a traveling baseball team. And all of his friends are like, you should really try out. You're the best out of all of us. And he's like, no, I was like, I just play wiffle ball. And they were like, you could play baseball, man. You just got to try, And so, and it's a story about this kid who tries out for a traveling baseball team and he makes the team. And yes, he makes mistakes and he makes a couple of friends along the way and some enemies. And when his number is actually called, it's time for him to step up and do his thing. Now, will he do his thing or will he fall to pieces? And they're like, we like that. Give us an outline. I was like, okay, cool. So I give them an outline and they're like, okay, we like this. We like this. You might want to change this right here. You might want to change this right here. Okay, let me see. Okay, cool. Let's go. So then I write the story and then I give it back to them. And they're like, okay, when you're writing this, this is for age range X through Y. So we need to curb back some of the words. We need to shorten the words. Check your vocabulary. Okay. We don't like this ending. We think it's corny. Can you change that? Change this dialogue here. We think that this would fit better here. And a lot of times I'm just like, yeah, they're right. They're really right. Every now and then I'll be like, well, I see what you're saying, but can we do this instead? Because I've got this going on later in the book. And they're like, oh yeah, sure, go. So it's an interesting relationship. And so I've been doing that for a few years and I've been trying to get an agent since 2015.
Yeah.
And so out of all the years to actually land a literary agent, 2020, just because as I said before, we all know what 2020 has been like. And when Kelly reached out to me, because there were a couple other agents that had reached out to me too. Because I was working on a project with artist Courtney Hahn, and a bunch of agents had reached out, and some of the communication was weird, others it was really good communication, but at the same time you didn't get a good vibe, and then it was silent for a while, and then Kelly had reached out to me, and I forgot that she had reached out to me, and so I looked at my email again. I was like, oh man, I almost blew this blessing. So, and then we had a nice long talk, and she said, okay, this is what we can do. I know, about comics, how you feel about prose, how do you feel about this and whatnot. She's like, these are your audiences that we can target. These are the markets. This is our take. This is what your take will be. And she really broke down things in such a way where I felt comfortable. And it just wasn't about, because a lot of times when I was trying to find an agent, there was a certain project that I was pitching, and she really liked that project, but she was like, I also want to talk about your other projects that you want to do. Whereas a bunch of other agents, they were just talking about that one project.
Yeah.
Which, as much as I appreciate that, I also, also appreciate people who say, okay, well, what about the rest of your career? What are the things interest you? What other things are you going for? And it just felt right. And it just felt right. And I felt like, Kelly had my back.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, let's do this. And so, yeah, she takes good care of me, and like, it's a weight off my shoulders, because originally when Capstone reached out to me, it's like, okay, I got to look at the contracts. I got to sign all the paperwork. I got to make sure everything in the contracts is cool. Okay, send it back. But at the same time, I don't have leverage. I'm not an agent. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Now it's a thing of, if a publisher reaches out to me for work for hire work, I'm like, hey, that sounds really cool. Here's my agent. Contact them so y'all can work it out. And then my agent gets back to me and says, okay, this is what they're offering. It's it's okay. But do you want it or not? And she'll give me the pros and cons of like any type of work for hire deal. Or like, if we're trying to pitch a project somewhere, the pros and cons of, this is what they're offering. This is what you should actually get, though. You know what I mean? And so it's just nice to have somebody in your corner that can take so much of that pressure off. And getting an agent, like for Black folks, getting an agent ain't easy, bro. Like, it's not. It's not, because you always have to feel like you got to be 4,000 times better than everybody else in the room just to get like the smallest percentage of attention, and a lot of times, like a lot of these folks don't understand you, or don't understand your culture, or where you come from, because they've never had to like be in the room with people that look like you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, like, after the New York Times dropped that article a couple of days ago about how white publishing is, which so many of us have been saying for decades, it's like, we've told you, we told you. And they're like, oh, well, we realize this now. Here's an article about it. And we're just like, like, we appreciate you saying this. We really do. But we really need change in this business. Like, it's tough. It's tough. And like, so like, I feel for anybody going on this journey right now to get representation, because you want somebody that not only will fight for you, but understands what you're trying to do as a storyteller. Like, there's a writer by the name of Angie Thomas. She wrote the book, The Hate You Give, and which was also turned into a movie a couple years ago. And when Angie Thomas was pitching to publishers, one of the publishers said, and it's in this New York Times article, one of the publishers said, well, we like your story, but we already have, basically they said, we already have a Black. They had Jason Reynolds. And they were, so like, and the thing is, they're like, well, we already have a Black person that tells stories like this. And I'm like, no two stories are the same. Right. No two stories are the same. It's like, basically say, oh, we already have our Black. And I'm just like, but like, that's the thing. Comic book publishers do that stuff too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's wild. Like, it's wild. And so like, now I really, over the last 5 years, really understand why like so many cats like do things independently. Like, on top of like, if they have representation, like they might do other things independently. Like, it's part of the reason why like I ran 3 Kickstarters this year, because like with a project like Ignition, as much as I love it, and as much as I love working with Gentleman Wright and Kelly Guillory, it's a story with a Black female lead. How many publishers are going to be willing to take a chance on it? It's a story that's like The Transporter meets Drive meets Fast and Furious with a Black woman lead. And like, so many publishers like, well, we kind of like the art style, but we don't like the colors, or we like the colors, but we may not like the art style, or we don't know about this type of story. We don't know if it can sell. I'm like, homie, I worked in the business for over 10 years. I've seen how this business runs. I've seen how it operates, and I've seen a lot of y'all's numbers. Like, our book could fare well if you choose to believe in it. But also, you need a publisher that's going to get behind you and actually somewhat try to market it, and also push to these shops the importance of the book. A lot of shops don't do, a lot of publishers don't do that. Yeah. So, so like, it's a struggle and it's a journey, my friend.
All right, well, let's talk about Kickstarter for a bit here. And I should say, anybody who's watching right now, if you're watching live or you got a question for Shawn, type it in the comment. Or if you just want to say, hey, Shawn, or if you want to say, whatever, type it in the comment. But so if I did my research correctly, you have done to date 8 Kickstarters. Does that sound right?
That sounds about right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Your first one would have been, it looks like, in 2010.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So think about that first Kickstarter. Think about your last one.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know now that you didn't know then? If you could go back to 2010 until 2010, Shawn, before you start this Kickstarter, you need to make sure you do this.
Make sure you know who your audience is. Make sure that what's your reach? Like, what's your social media reach? Because like a lot of stuff with Kickstarter, it takes social media. It takes social media to get the word out there. What's that outreach look like? Are you going to spend any money on internet advertising? And because once again, like the more people you reach, the better chance you have of getting fully funded. How much money are you willing to spend on internet advertising? How much are you willing to talk about your project every single day? How many different ways can you spin your project? Is this project yours or is this someone else's project? Now with Ignition, with Ignition issue 2, that's me, Jenlyn Wright, and Kelly Guillory. With the very first ever Kickstarter I did, that was for Action Lab. That was actually to get Action Lab Entertainment seed money. And so not only with that one, I'm like, not only are you stumping for a project that technically isn't yours, you're also stumping for a company that you're a part of, that you're a part of, that you're trying to get off the ground. So, but now, like, you don't have to deal with that anymore. Now you're representing for you. You're representing for you, you're representing for the team, for your team, and for this specific project. It's like, also, hey, your video doesn't need to be any more than maybe a minute and 30 seconds tops, period. Okay. So get to the point, but make it entertaining. You don't have to talk. You don't have to be in front of the camera. Let the project, present itself. Period. Let the project present itself. Sell it the best way you can. And if you can do that, great. Also, learn about 15 years ago. Learn about what's the word I'm looking for? As far as like stock music. Being able to get royalty free. Music to use. Like, where do you find that music? Like, learn that. Go back 10 years ago. Like, look, you go to these sites. You can get royalty free music. Just have to credit them for it. Got it. Bet. Like, get to the point. What is your project about? Who is your creative team? Here are your rewards. Tell them. Right in that list. Just try to get to the point. And 10 years ago, I would have told myself, make sure you communicate as much as possible with the people who back you. And like, I try to do that all the time. Like later this week for the first Ignition Kickstarter that I did, I'll be bringing out an update, letting people know this is where the shipping is. And then for the Fire Within Kickstarter, I'll be letting them know, hey, only 27 people left to fill out their surveys. And then we can start getting that underway. With the Ignition issue 2, like 3 days from now, I can say, hey, guess what? The money's finally arrived. So while Kelly is working on issue 2, I can get these other rewards put together for y'all. And so then we can order the books. And then in February, boom, y'all can get y'all stuff. So it's a process. And that's another thing too, patience, because not everything is going to go smooth, period.
And based on what I could see, all 8 of your Kickstarters were successful, correct? You raised the money you were looking to raise. What do you attribute that to? Because I have to assume not everybody who throws a Kickstarter out there is successful. But
True.
You've done 8. All 8 of them have gone through.
Dedication, commitment, luck, and good and great people who believe in me. You know what I mean? And believe in the projects that like me and like the folks I've collabed with have been trying to do over the years. Like it's nice to have that support. Because like it can get really stressful. It can get really, really stressful because like the one thing I'm trying so hard to not do is compare myself to other people. And it's very tough, especially when you're doing crowdfunding. You know what I mean? Like, so you're like just chugging along. It's like, well, I'll get there. We're going. We're in the buggy. We're getting there. And then you see somebody come through with a Lamborghini and lap you four times, and you're just like, oh, you're just like, what am I doing wrong? And it's not what you're doing wrong. It's just that every audience is different, you know, and that's the whole thing. Every audience is different, and there's only so much you can do as an individual. You know what I mean? But like what I've noticed, like especially over like the last like 5 Kickstarters I've done, there are a certain number of people who always come back, and because I always make sure these people get taken care of, you know, and I always like let people know, if you back my Kickstarter, if there's a problem, please contact me. Please contact me, because I want to take care of you. There have also been some folks I've done Kickstarters with, like years later, finally fill out their survey. Years later, I actually had like 2 people this year fill out surveys from the 2 Kickstarters I did like back in 2018, and or 2017 or 2018. 2018. It was in 2018. I was like, wow. I was like, okay, I think I still got some of that stuff left, so let's just pack it all up in an envelope. We'll sit it out next week or something like that. So
that's got to be people that obviously just backed it because they believed in the project. They weren't trying to get any of that extra stuff. They just, here you go, man. I believe in your project. Here's some money. Yeah. Don't worry about all this other stuff.
Right. And so like I don't stress over it. Like it just catches you off guard. It's just like, yeah. So I thought that was when? Oh, okay, no problem. Let's just pack it up. Let's go. You know, let's just pack it up and let's go. So but it's been nice to like have the support that I have received. And I always tell people, like, this is another thing. Like another thing, if I known then what I know now, one thing I always tell people is that if you don't know who your audience is, and if you don't know what kind of outreach you have, start small. Start small. Start small. Have a small project, without like a very big goal. So like that way, if you crush your goal, like it's like, oh man, your Kickstarter was 300% funded. So like if you had like a $500 Kickstarter and it ends up being like $1,500 or $2,000, they'll see the percentage.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, that person just like killed it. You know what I mean? Like start small and grow. Grow as an individual, grow your audience, and grow your needs, and do your needs fit with your audience. Like I've always felt that the projects that I've tried to put out there as a creator are things that like I want to see out there. And like part of that energy, I try to make sure that it shows in the project, it shows in the Kickstarter video. It shows in the interviews that I do. It shows in my tweets, my Instagram posts, but like, yeah, I always like worry though. Always worry and stress that like, I'm not going to make I'm not going to make my goal. But like my friends always tell me, they're like, man, you always hit. So just play the game and keep pushing and you'll get there. And they're right.
Yeah. So when let's take Ignition, for example, you're doing that one issue at a time. How many issues do you have a set number of issues already for that?
4.
So what made you decide to do it one issue at a time rather than do a collection, like a graphic novel?
Because like for me, I think it was going to be, I don't want to say easier, but it was just going to be better for me to try to do Kickstarters for like $4,000 and $5,000 than to try to do one for $16,000.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? In all sincerity, I think that'd have been a lot tougher for me. I'm not saying that like I can't get that money, but one is 2020. 2, like I know the amount of work it would take to get $16,000, and like I don't know if my audience is big enough to hit that. And that's no disrespect at all to those who have backed my projects in the past. Like I think like the most I've ever put out for a project was maybe like $8,500, $9,000. That was for like Cash and Carry Book 2. And even then I was stressing about that from the day I hit launch till the day it ended. Like stressed, like my blood pressure went all the way up. I was on like blood pressure medication for like a year and a half after that. And so like, I felt it would be less stressful on myself and the team if I said, we just do this issue at a time. and so far I've been right. So far I've been right. And so and it's probably more than likely it's going to stay that way for issue 3 and for issue 4. And so now, I'll have to talk with Jenna and Kelly and be like, okay, so when would you like for me to schedule issue 3? And then when would you like for me to schedule issue 4? And then I'll just put those Kickstarters together ahead of time. And then when the images and other things come in, I'll pop them in the Kickstarter, and then we can just set launch dates. And so it's just, like I said, for me, it's easier that way for me.
So using Ignition then to continue with that as an example, when you put the first Kickstarter up for issue number 1, how far into the project were you when you launched the Kickstarter?
The issue was penciled, inked. It was written, penciled, inked, and it was halfway colored.
Okay.
It was halfway colored. And then after it was colored, it was lettered. The only reason why it had taken so long to start fulfilling rewards for issue number 1 was because we got caught right in the beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
We got caught right in the middle of the pandemic, and like a lot of the printers that I was using were shut down. And so I had to wait. And then there were other rewards like t-shirts that like got misprinted. So then I had to like send those back and then get new t-shirts, waiting on shipping supplies. Cause like, there are only certain shipping supply places that I'll use. And like those places were shut down for a while. And then I was like, okay, I got to find another one. I was like, okay, I know this one. Let's go get the shipping supplies. So like the pandemic like really slowed things down. But now like with issue 2, like as we were doing the Kickstarter, all the pages were penciled and inked. And as the Kickstarter was running, Kelly was working on coloring. And so she's still working on coloring and lettering. So now by the time, January hits, we should be done with it. And I can start getting all the rewards together for that and ship it out in February. So like a lot of times I like at least for the book to be penciled, inked, and at least part of the pages colored. So I have something to show on that Kickstarter page, because, like that's the thing, you got to sell. You got to sell. So without that, I can't sell anything.
Right. So when you're coming up then with the money that you need to raise for an issue, I'm assuming that, of course, some of that money that you're raising goes to pay the penciler and the inker and the colorist and the letter, and then yourself, printing costs, shipping costs. But I'm assuming you also have to take into consideration whatever you're offering as a reward. So, for example, you mentioned T-shirts. You include that in the cost of what you're trying to raise? It's like, if I'm going to send out 100 T-shirts, I'm going to need this much money to print up those T-shirts and ship them out.
That's right. So, yes. Oh yeah, definitely. Because if not, like stuff like that can get you got in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? And so like, because like depending on where you're getting your T-shirts printed, like how many T-shirts you actually need printed. Like in some places, the more you print, the cheaper the cheaper per shirt it costs. Other places it's just a flat fee, but like you're guaranteed like good high quality. You know what I mean? So like, there's that too. But yeah, that is also incorporated into the cost. So like a lot of times when the Kickstarter's done, money, like, if we're lucky, there's $10-15 left. So it's like, all right, well, give me a pizza and a 2-liter can of the dry. All right, we won.
Yeah. So okay, I just had it in my head. What kind of rewards do you have a standard? It's like, okay, obviously you're going to get a copy of the issue. You're going to get a digital copy of the issue. You mentioned T-shirts. What other kind of rewards do you just, because you have your first goal, then you have stretch goals. You add rewards as you hit these stretch goals. So what's your basic reward package that I'm going to give out? I'm going to have this stuff ready for folks.
A lot of times, like a normal package would be, okay, here's your print copy with your digital copy. Let's throw in a magnet and like maybe like a mini poster. Okay, like that's normally your initial package. And then like you'll have like the same package but with a T-shirt. But like I'll normally have two or three different types of T-shirts. So and also depending on, because we also have variant covers too. And that's something else that's like different for me. I never have done variant covers before. And the thing is, and how I tell people is like with Ignition issue 1 and with issue 2, every cover that's printed, I don't reprint. I don't. So once it's printed, I may keep like a couple extra copies to take to shows when we eventually have conventions again. But once they're printed, I'm not reprinting them. So it makes them, I don't want to say more valuable. It just makes them more
that potential.
Yeah, true.
Let's say you blow up and they make that Ignition movie. Boom, those people who got that issue number 1.
That's true that. So but like it makes them have something that's like, hey, I had this, and no one else has this, or very few people have this, and like so, like that to me, that's really cool. So like say for instance with the first issue, I think we had like 7. I think we may have had 7 or 8 variant covers. And it's not like everybody ordered hundreds of each, it's just like, maybe the main cover had 100 plus. The second cover maybe had 75. Third cover may have had like 80, and so forth and so forth. And with this one, I said, okay, let's pare it back and we'll have 5 covers for issue 2 and 1 cover for a second printing of issue 1. So once again, all new covers, all new covers, and everybody's like, oh, hey, that's really cool. And so it just gives, like I said, gives people the opportunity to get something that they're never going to be able to get again. Right. T-shirts are always a thing with stretch goals. I like to do things like, okay, here's an MP3 commentary, or okay, we might throw in some bookmarks, or we might, here's a maybe we might do something like a keychain or like a pin or something like that. If the stretch marks ever got that far, but like I try to keep it simple. I try to keep it simple not only for me but for the backers as well. Also, shipping cost wise, to keep shipping costs down. Like say for instance, like if I bag and board a book, I can put the stickers in there, I can put magnets in there, I can put like the mini poster in there, put it in a nice firm envelope that can't bend. It keeps shipping costs at a nice price, and then it can just go out. It's the same if I put a t-shirt in there too. It's the same thing. It still keeps costs reasonable. And so I try not to like get too over elaborate with it.
So your print run, that's just for the folks who backed you on Kickstarter?
Pretty much, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you plan on putting like still selling digital copies either through, I know you got a Gumroad, and through like Comixology, places like that?
When it's all said and done, yes. Yeah. Like the thing is, I still want to find a publisher for it.
Okay.
When it's all said and done, I want to find a publisher for it. Like I want to do right by Jenna and Kelly as well. So I hope that we can find a publisher. And if we find a publisher, then it's like, okay, now let's see where the journey takes us. So like I've withheld on like putting it out digitally right now. So like right now it's just like the Kickstarter's the focus. But then that's another reason why, like say for instance, when we did the Kickstarter for issue 2, I told everybody, it's like, if you didn't get issue 1, you can get it here. You can get it here. So like you've got that opportunity. If you missed out, you still got a chance. When we do the Kickstarter for Ignition issue 3, I can tell people, you missed out on the first 2 issues. It's okay. You can still get them in this one too. So like the opportunity to still get that stuff is always there, because like I don't want people to miss out.
Okay. Well, I think that answers all my Kickstarter questions. I'm really interested in Kickstarter because it's just one of those things I've never done. And I just don't know much about it.
It's work.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It's work, but like for me, like it really helps me get my goals and my dreams out there on top of everything else I'm doing. And it gives people opportunities, like with issue 2, we did like all these cool variant covers where I got to work with artists like Tracina Bowling and Tiana Conyers and Elizabeth Bales, who I've been wanting to work with like forever, ever. And Megan Wong and Rory Comics, Rory DeRain, and also with Kelly Guillory, the series artist, doing a painted cover, no less. So like it provides opportunities, and these people get paid for that stuff. So like that's that's cool. You know what I mean? Like that makes me feel good. Like I got to collaborate with somebody I always wanted to collaborate with. They got a check, and like all parties are happy.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you.
Let's talk about culture trapping.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about it.
That's our podcast. That's what you and Julian Lytle and Daryl
Taylor and Gil
Daryl
Cologne.
Taylor. Who's the fourth guy?
Gil Cologne.
Okay, I don't know him. I tell you, I listened to this latest episode you guys put out, and my first thought was, okay, who's the fourth guy? They're not going out of their way to announce who each one of them are.
Oh yeah.
But I'm still not done with the episode, but I'm really enjoying it. Tell folks what Culture Trapping is.
All right, Culture Trapping, as I said before, it's a podcast. It's on the Taylor Network podcast. It's me, along with creators Julian Lytle, podcaster Daryl Taylor, and podcaster Gil Cologne. And we talk about pop culture stuff. We talk about real world stuff too, like the issues that are going on in this country. From like a black and brown perspective. But we also talk about TV shows like Power. We talk about comic books. We talk about movies. We talk about the business of entertainment as a whole as well. And so it can all vary. It can all vary, and we can hit a tangent in a heartbeat. Yeah. Because like in the beginning of the latest episode, as of this recording, like we were just talking about something about music and how. And I talked about Lady Antebellum and how that led to that lawsuit with Lady A, an unnecessary lawsuit, by the way. And which it opened up this whole big old can of worms because like some reason it was just stuck back here. And I was like, I got to talk about this. And so then you fast forward a couple of days later, Charlie Pride dies, which also like for me internally opens up a big can of worms. But that, but that's another story for another time. Anyway, but like this podcast, like we've been doing this probably since like, I want to say 2016, 2017. And we've all known each other for at least over a decade. And Daryl's been wanting all of us together on a podcast for like a long time. Like I used to podcast years ago, had a podcast called The Black Box that was on the HHW LOD podcast network.
I was on one episode.
Yes, you were.
You and Harold. Yep.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes. And so like I did that, like my Patreon account that I have, I was trying to do live podcasting on that. Life has kind of been like, there's no time, son. There's no time, but hope to get back to that one day. But like, I enjoy podcasting. I've been on like a lot of other people's podcasts and shows, and it's fun. And I have a good time. And so Daryl was just like, hey man, like if you do this show, like you don't have to record it. You don't have to edit it. He's like, I'll take care of it. And I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, count me in. Come
on and talk. That's all you got to do.
That's all you got to do. Just provide your voice. And I'm like, okay, bet, great. So I was like, let's do this. And so we don't record as often as we used to. We used to record like we get together like every other week, every other 2-3 weeks. And like, but this year, 2020 has just been rough on all of us. So we just get together when we can. And when we do, man, we just go all in and it's fun.
I think what I like about the show, and it actually wasn't this most current episode I've been listening to. It was the one before it. Because I think Daryl had put up that you guys had just finished recording what's probably out now. And so I was like, oh, I didn't know about this show. And so I go and I grab the latest that was up at the time. And you guys are talking about TV. And I think it was this show Power you guys might have been talking about. But the thing I like about it is because you do tell it from your perspective as far as the industry and whatnot. And you were talking about this TV show, and man, so one of y'all were talking about, everything that's been happening, and this happened and this happened. And then she did this and he did this and she was telling him that, and you get done. And one of you is like, and that all happened. They're only like 2 episodes in. And I think it might've been you were like, well, Black TV shows, we got to put in as much as we can because you never know when the white people are going to cancel it. So we got to tell as much story as we can.
Yeah, we got to get it in because we don't know when they're going to cut the cord.
Right. And I just went, that makes sense.
Hey, you just never know. Like, you never know. And so, like, say for instance, perfect example is like a show like Power. Like, it's on Encore, and like Power is like Encore's most popular show. Like, or Stars, not Encore. So it used to be called Encore. Now it's called Stars. Now I'm showing my age. But like Stars, Power is their most popular show. And like, it's literally helped keep that cable company afloat. Yes, shows like Outlander do decent, do well enough. And they've had other shows on there too, but it's Power that's kept the lights on. No pun intended. And so now like, the original Power series is done. Now they're doing spinoffs. And now, so like, it's the second book And like that show is taking off and doing really well. But a lot of people thought like Power was only going to last 1 year. And so, they did as much as possible, and they're just like, this show is just wild. Okay, we got to bring it back. And so yeah, but like for a lot of shows that have like predominantly Black cast, even in an era of streaming networks, which the streaming wars are completely wild. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. But what we're dealing with right now with streaming, never seen anything like this. Like there's a better opportunity for like shows with predominantly black and brown cast to have at least more than one season. But even then, you don't know, because an algorithm can completely take you out the loop and take you out the existence of viewers. Plus, you're also dealing with, depending on the streaming service, you're also dealing with what's the user interface look like? What does the graphic user interface look like? How easy is it to access? We all know Netflix's user interface is trash, because all it is an algorithm telling us what's hot, who's watched what, and possibly their suggestions. And 9 times out of 10, how many of those things are actually things that you really want to watch?
And how many of those things have anything to do with, I'll see crap in categories like here's some sci-fi comedy, and then they've got like the most deep, dark, dramatic, non-funny movie ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It makes no sense. No,
it does not. And so, like all that stuff comes into play. But yeah, you're right. Like I said that, I was like, yeah, man, you never know when they're gonna cut the lights out. So it's like you got to get in as much as you possibly can. And then, if they let the lights on for another season, once again, you do as much as you possibly can, in the hopes that they don't turn the lights off.
Yeah. Well, it's a good show. I've been enjoying what I've listened to so far. I think another reason I like it is because it's like, because you guys, obviously you're all 4 friends. Y'all just, you're just talking. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm in a freaking restaurant. I'm sitting in a booth and I'm just sitting there listening to you guys in the other booth, just talking.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm just listening. I'm enjoying it,
Yeah. Nothing's forced. Yeah. Nothing is forced. It's just, it's comfortable. We all feel comfortable, and we also learn from each other too. Because like I said, all of our lives are completely different. Like I live in the South, but it's closer to the Midwest. Like Julian lives in DC. Daryl and Gil live in different parts of New York. So like all of our lives are all completely different. You know what I mean? And so like the perspectives that we even like give to each other, we learn something from.
Nice. All right. Before we wrap this sucker up, I got some standard interview questions. Okay. The kind of stuff you're going to get wherever you're at.
Right.
What are you reading right now? What is like something that you've been reading lately that you think other people should be reading? Give me, what do I need to be reading?
Okay, hold on 1 second. I can tell you. Hold on 1 second. Let me get it for you. Let's see. This and let's see. And you know what? Where's that at? There it is, right there. All right, here we go. Okay. So got a couple of things, and like I said, I don't read superhero stuff as much as I used to, but I've been going back and looking at a lot of old stuff. A lot of this is old Milestone stuff, like Icon.
Oh yeah.
This was volume 1. Like it's like I said, it's definitely a different take on Superman, and also like a lot of people who never read about Icon, what they may not understand is that like Icon is like like very conservative. So like you're dealing with like a Black conservative superhero, when like the whole Milestone line itself is not conservative. And so it's an interesting take, and like they're fantastic stories. And also they did a story where like they mocked Luke Cage, like 70s/80s Luke Cage. Whew. Like I think they called the character Buck Wild.
Nice.
Whew, man, that was hilarious. Like this is just a fantastic book. And two other Milestone books. Hardware, The Man in the Machine, which is like I want to say it's also the first volume of stories. And also this was Static Shock. This was from like years ago where they did a Static Shock miniseries with McDuffie, Robert Washington, and John Paul Leon. And so like I've been rereading these and like really just getting like a really good vibe. Now, two other things I've also read. I know like a lot of kids love Big Nate. And like I really started reading Big Nate for like the first time like last year, and it's hilarious. Like these are great these are great comics for like kids, but like as an adult, like it takes me back to being in grade school, and I absolutely love it. So I got to give Lincoln Pierce props because Big Nate's funny. Also, there is someone named Amy Stoddard, and they did like a mini comic called it's called Diets of Bear, and it's about like body positivity and about how like everybody like diet and exercise, but like it's different for everyone, and like I'm not losing the weight I thought I was supposed to lose, and like trying to learn how like to love who you are and whatnot. It's short, but it's a short comic, but it's really great because like I struggle with like body issues too, and I've been like that since like I was a teenager. So and I want to say that it should be available at genkigirl.com, www.genkigirl.com, I believe. But yeah, I also got like a digital copy of it too. And like this is actually, I want to say this came out last year and I finally read it this year, and it's actually like one of my favorite things I've read this year. Because it's just so honest and it's cute. So, and so like, you could be a dude and like cute stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? So, so yeah, but that's what I've been reading as of late.
All right. Now those Milestone books, they just recently republished those, didn't they?
No, these are a couple years old. Like these,
right.
like these are during, because like if you look at the logo, like if you look,
that's that old DC logo.
That's that old DC logo. Yeah.
I think they just recently republished them though, because I, being what I refer to as a low rent fanboy, I read a lot of my stuff through Hoopla, through my local library digitally.
Oh yeah.
And those books just showed up within the last, this year, just within the last year. Icon,
nice,
jumped up there first, and then Hardware came out. I reread Hardware. I was collecting comics. I was working at a comic book store when those books came out.
Oh, okay.
And I remember reading Hardware and Icon back in the day. I don't know if I read. I don't remember reading Static Shock back in the day. And then there was a fourth one.
Let's see. What
was that fourth with the wasn't it like they were a gang who got superpowers? Blood Syndicate. Yeah, I don't think I read that one either. But I really enjoyed Hardware. Really enjoyed rereading it this time around.
Yeah.
And I remember liking Icon. That's the next one I need to be checking out on Hoopla.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like the Milestone stuff is really really cool, and then like you get into stuff like Zombie with an X, like XOMBI, like and things like that, and like the Milestone stuff was way ahead of its time.
Yep.
Is way ahead of its time. I wish, because like basically back then DC was just like a distributor for Milestone. Like that's really what it was. I really wish they would have truly got behind it. Now, like I'm glad now that. Milestone's about to make a comeback with DC, and they've got like some wonderful things lined up. I wish Dwayne McDuffie was still around to see this, but like I'm glad it's actually happening, and the folks that they have behind it, are real sincere, and I just want it to work. I just want it to work. I just want to see it out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy because Static Shock became hugely popular. I mean, he had a cartoon.
Yeah.
And yet, where's he now? Right? They try to throw him into DC every once in a while, but I don't know.
Well, and they also put the wrong people, like the wrong people on those books. And then like when they finally put somebody decent on the books, it was too late. And like that's always bothered me. Always. Like, but now hopefully we don't have to worry about that, hopefully. And so, we can get like, solid creators that like, that have a penchant for storytelling and understand the culture enough to like really, make these superheroes so awesome.
Yeah. All right, Shawn, tell people where they can find you.
Oh yeah. Okay. So check it. You can find me on Twitter at ShawnRPryor.com, ShawnRPryor on Twitter. On Instagram, you can find me at The Shawn P Show. Those are really like my two places where I reside. Like Facebook, I post every now and then. Like I try to stay away from the Facebooks. But also I have a website right now. The website is actually my Amazon page. I know like a lot of people don't mess with Amazon right now, and I understand it. But if you want to see what I've written so far, just go to ShawnPryor.com. It will take you to the Amazon page. And then if you see something, you can go order it somewhere else. I will not be offended at all. So like those are normally the three best ways to like check out what I do. If you see me on Twitter, I'm either cracking jokes, talking Super Sentai, talking about a book I'm working on, or project, or just being me. So or posting pictures of my dogs.
Oh
So,
yeah, them dogs.
I love, dogs drive me crazy. I love them to death. I swear.
Yeah, but I tell you what. Back when I was still leaving the house to go to work, I'd come home. I remember my kids when they were real small. I'd come home and they'd always be so happy to see me. Now it's like the only one that meets me at the door is that dog.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like
always happy to see me.
I'll come home and like because I come in from downstairs and go upstairs, and we have like it's a wooden gate. So like when they come downstairs, they can't run into the den downstairs because you can't give them that freedom. And so I'll get downstairs and like King, the young one, he's like a year old now. He'll run down and he'll hop up and he'll like look over the gate like, who there? Who there? Oh, it's you. Oh, okay. All right. Hi, Dad. All right, I'm going back upstairs. So they'll do that. Like, and Leia will do that sometimes too. She's 3 years old. And then I'll get to the top of the stairs and they want to jump on me. I'm like, you let me get away from the stairs so you don't knock me down the stairs, because life insurance policy isn't that large. All y'all be homeless. So just let me get upstairs, please. Every time.
Where one of them recently had the medical issues, right?
Darcy, that was Darcy. Darcy had passed away in late January, back in February. Bless her heart.
Yeah.
Like she's the sweetest dog in the world. Actually, Darcy was the reason why like I now accept dogs.
Yeah.
Because like I had a bad incident with dogs a long time ago. Like this year. This year right here got ripped through clean by a greyhound.
Yeah.
And I had to have surgery to like get it reattached. And like it scared me off of dogs forever. And then when I met my now fiance, she had a dog, Darcy, and Darcy had her issues. Like she had a lot of anxiety, so we had to put her on medicine and whatnot. But like she's the sweetest girl in the world. And she had some tumors, and tumors were cancerous. We did all we could, and to those who had donated to the GoFundMe to help us with those medical issues this year, before she passed, I appreciate it more than you ever know, because you gave us almost 60 more days, and that means the world to us, and definitely meant the world to my fiance, because she loved Darcy to death. And so, but now we have two dogs in the house again. And because we adopted King, the 1-year-old, we adopted him in April. Leia's happy about that. But like it was different when we had two girls. Now it's a boy and a girl, and boy's gonna boy. Lord have mercy, boy's gonna. Too much. He sees too much. But he's a sweetheart too. Like they're both sweethearts, and they mean a lot, and I'm thankful.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear about Darcy, man. My dog, he's over in the other room. He's looking at me right now. He knows I'm talking about him. Niles, he's a Lhasa Apso. He's a rescue dog. We've had him for a number of years. He's getting old.
Yeah.
And we know it's coming, but
all you can do is just let them know how much you love them.
Yep. Yep.
Just let them know how much you love them. You take care of them the best you can. Like that's all you can do. And like as long as they know that every day, they're gonna be okay.
Oh yeah. Good dog,
Yes, indeed. Yes, I know. Trust me, I know. All
right. Anything else you want to throw out there? Anything people need to know about you?
No, just be on the lookout. 2021 is going to be a busy year, like 2020. Like I think being so busy during this pandemic actually saved me from like really going off the cliff. But there's going to be a lot of projects next year. There's going to be a lot of Kickstarters next year. can't really say, I can't talk about anything yet because like I normally don't like talking about stuff until either it's done or unless a contract is signed.
Yeah.
So, but like I'm excited about 2021. I feel that we're going to be in the house for a majority of 2021.
Yep.
But that's okay. That's okay. We'll do what we can. But you know, like I said, follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Go to my website / Amazon page, and you know, and follow me there. And you know, hey, Stephen, I can't say thanks enough for having me on the show. I appreciate your time so much, and I appreciate you.
Well, it was a pleasure. I always enjoy. I follow you on Twitter. I have a couple of lists on Twitter, and you're on one of those lists, so I can check it out every day. I always appreciate your dog tweets, and then just you know, I learn stuff from you, and appreciate that you're out there.
Oh well, thank you. I appreciate you, Steve. Oh man, well now I get to go upstairs and go walk both dogs separately. Can't walk them one. You can't walk them both at the same time. That's chaos.
Yeah,
that's absolutely. They would just go after each other. I'm like, y'all do this in the house. You don't have to do that outside. We can just walk together. Nope. And I'm like, look, you're not doing a Hell in a Cell cage match outside. Just take it back in the house, both of you. We're done. We're done.
Right.
we're done. We're done. But no, thank you, my brother. I appreciate you so much, and I love you. You know, give my best to the family, and I want you to have a happy holiday, and take good care of yourself. Okay.
You too, man.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
You're welcome.